seen that too, right? Okay, so allegedly, this image was given out to board executives during a Warner Discovery meeting concerning HBO Max's 2026 Quarter 4 lineup for their new shows, which means if this really is a new season of Total Drama, it will premiere around a year from now. So, we have an entirely new cast, which is exciting. I'm not sure if this means this will be another reboot, like we already had a reboot from 2023, so is this going to be another one, or will this be a continuation from the 2023 season? I'm not sure, but I'm like so excited nonetheless. I mean, look at these guys, such varied character designs. Who's your favorite? Me personally, I like all of them because I made all of them. That's right, I gotcha. Yeah. Okay, wait, don't turn off, don't turn off. Listen. I know that I may have tricked you a little bit, kind of, sort of, but hear me out. Don't you want to learn about all these characters' cool backstories? Don't you want to learn about how I designed them? Don't you want to learn how to make your own Total Drama OCs? If you answered yes to any of those questions, just stick around for a little while, and let me take you through how I made my own season of Total Drama. So, I'm trying something a little new with this video. In previous videos, I would have like an entire script I would read out of, but since this speed draw clocks in over like a day's worth of time, I really wanted to focus most of my effort on the drawing. And I feel like that's kind of what you guys want to see too. You just mostly want to see the drawing, which, I understand, but I'll like briefly talk about my characters and my process while doing this. So you might notice it right now, but there are parts where the speed draw, it like glitched out me while I was recording it. So you're going to see sections where the screen is kind of paused and it's going to kind of jump in time. That does get resolved pretty quickly, like after I think the 5th character I drew. So don't worry about it too much for now. But yeah, that's just going to happen a bit. But going into my process, so drawing 16 characters is actually pretty hard. Oh, what I guessed. So my process was I first went to this random character traits generator from Tumblr. I'll also provide a link down in the description if you would like to use it. When I generated the character traits, I didn't use all of them. They were mostly just for inspiration. A lot of this project was just me trying to find inspiration whenever I can. So I used the random trait generator. I pick out a couple, and then I would also just like have like kind of like I would go to Google and like search images that I wanted for my character. So this character is Selene. She is Korean, French Canadian. And for this character, I want to start with the quote-unquote protagonist girl. So if you don't know, in Total Drama, in a lot of their casts, they have one girl who is like quote-unquote normal compared to the rest of them. And usually this girl would make it pretty far. She would either win or place 2nd or 3rd. So for example, in the first cast, that was Gwen. And even though Gwen was like alternative, emo, goth, whatever, she was pretty normal compared to most of her cast. That's why she ended up with Trent, who was normal in Total Drama Island. Of course, we know in Total Drama Action, he was Flanderized, and Gwen was also Flanderized later on. And then in Revenge of the Island, we had Zoe, who again was the normal one of the cast, and she made it like 3rd, and then she got far in All-Stars. And then in Pocket 2, that was Sky. So you can see it's like a trend. And then I would say in the reboot seasons, that was Priya. And yeah, they all either win or made it pretty far. So this character is pretty important. When I did the random generation, I got adjectives like to sleep, very durable, adaptable, introspective. So I just kind of formed that all together. And when I thought about it, I was like, that would make a pretty good quote-unquote protagonist girl character. For this iteration of the season, there are no teams, and I'll explain that later in the intermission, where I explain more about what the format of this season is going to look like. But yeah, so there's no teams. Instead, there are going to be alliances that are made by the players, not by the host. And I don't even know who the host is going to be. I didn't draw the host because I already made like 16 goddamn characters. But yeah, so she is going to be the head of one of the major alliances, but not really by choice. It's more because someone else made a very large alliance and she wants to fight against it. Like one of the first boosts was probably like one of her friends, some tension like that. But she's going to be the head of like the retaliatory alliance. She is kind of our quote-unquote normal girl this season, but she has stuff that makes her like interesting. She's fighting against this major alliance. She has to kind of have like this ragtag group for her alliance. And, she is very introspective, but she is kind of like an introvert, She kind of takes around her surroundings. And, being an introvert, but having to be the quote-unquote leader of this major alliance, that causes a lot of like, how is she going to handle the situation? So as you can see right now, she is looking like a total drama character, but there are some things here that are not quite right, like the line thickness, but I'm going to fix that later. So this one was, of course, took the longest because I had to figure out how to get the style right. And the thing with total drama style is that it's not particularly hard, but it is very unique. A lot of the characters, they kind of have similar traits about them, but they can also differ widely. Like, as you can see here, the reference images I have are from the G1 cast and the Reboot cast, and even though they look similar, there are some like differences between them. So I would say the easiest way to get the total drama style right is to first know the difference between the male and the female characters. They kind of like use different bases from each other. So like, for example, the female characters, they have like more of, I guess, like a triangular shape to them. Well, the male characters like are a little bit more rectangular. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like when you study it, it just kind of works out like that. And then also a major difference between the male and female characters is our hands. The female characters have like pointier hands, male characters have like more rectangular hands. And then I usually start out with the face first because that's the most different between characters. Their bodies, they can differ widely, but they all kind of follow the same like formula between them. But the face is really where you're gonna get that difference. So I start with the eyes and then with the face shape and just like kind of figure out what works best for this character. So for Selene, I wanted to kind of have this vibe of like, you know, graceful, you know, introspective, and also I incorporated night themes to her because, you know, one of the character traits I generated was likes to sleep. So actually I did come up with the names last for each of these characters. So I didn't have Selene as her original name, but then when I had like the moon necklace and night motifs, I chose Selene. That's the name of the goddess of the moon in Greek mythology. And as you can see right now, I'm fixing her line width, and I'm just going to basically use her as a reference for almost the rest of these characters. I like to use a lot of the other characters as a reference just so they can all kind of follow the same formula from each other. And also, another thing the Reboot cast is that they do have colored lines, like inside her design, which is a little bit more annoying than just having the solid black all throughout, but I guess I do kind of like it more. It like makes them look a little less, I don't really know, like less flat, I would say. And also, it's important to get like their face shape. They, total drama characters, their facial features are relatively small compared to the rest of their head, and also like their mouth is like very close up to their face. And so it's like their nose is all kind of like scrunched up together in a way. So just be mindful when you're trying something like that. And also I drew a base sketch for all of these. That's very important because in all these base sketches, they kind of look pretty whack from each other, but it's pretty important to just get the full character right. But yeah, that's Selene. That is our first character, and only 15 more to go. I'm starting to think this wasn't a great idea.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should note.
Okay, I'm already seeing some difficulties when it comes to doing this off the cuff, but if I made a script for this, it would probably be like 100 pages long, and this video wouldn't be out until like spring 2026, so we're just gonna chug along. So, next I'm doing my first boy character of the series, and this is, I already hinted at it, this is the one who made the other major alliance of this cast. This is gonna be our main villain. You know, I feel like after I made the main protagonist girl, I should be making the main villain. So you know the main villain of Total Drama, that archetype. In season 1, we have the iconic Heather. We love her, we love to hate her. It's amazing. She's just like, I actually think she's like one of the best characters of the show. The best written, that is. And then in season 2, we kind of had like, we didn't really have a major villain in season 2. Like, we had Justin for like the first half and then Courtney for the second half. Season 2 is weird. It's a really total drama action. Like, I love it, but it's not the best written. And then in World Tour, we of course have Alejandro, and then we have the rest who cares. So for our main villain of this series, I really didn't want to like retread on previous villains. So instead, I'm going to combine 2 previous villains. So I'm going to combine Alejandro and also Scott, and he's from the Vegeta Island season. So Alejandro, I feel like you guys know him already, but he basically took what Justin had in season 2 and like perfected it, where he would use his charms to get his way, but also just use basic manipulation, which is kind of the best of both worlds. And Scott, he also was pretty manipulative in his season, but he used a lot more like dirty, underhanded tactics. Like he would cause his team to purposely lose so he can pick out players one by one. So this is Hunter. He's Canadian too. Actually, all these characters are either Canadian or from Canada, because Canada is is such a vital identity of Total Drama. Like when you first watched it as a kid, you probably didn't even know it was Canadian, but watching it now, you can definitely see its Canadian roots. And so yeah, my series is going to take place in Canada too, because honestly, Canada needs more rap. No one's talking about Canada. No one cares about Canada. Sorry, I should say. But anyway, so yes, Hunter is Canadian. He is from Manitoba. I don't know what specific city, but you know, he's from that area of Canada, like more of the wilderness, because he's a wilderness guy, wilderness expert. So when I did his character trait, I got takes everything very seriously, has like a blank, expressionless face, which I recreated in his character, but skill, good at charming others. Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. And then like some cute little traits like carve little ducks out of woods. Like that's cute. We love that. Oh, I should clarify. All these characters are like from college. So in the original Total Drama, they were all like teenagers. I don't have like specific ages because honestly, I don't really care. But yeah, just have that age range and context. But yeah, so Hunter is very good at charming others. That's why he was able to form such a major predominant alliance early on. And it includes both women and men. You know, we're doing gender equality. And half of them were just charmed by him, but the other half he used this manipulation to get good with. So basically, he's going to run his alliance till the very end, and then he's going to pick off his alliance one by one to win the whole thing. I'll get more into how this format works later on, but that's going to be important for it. But yeah, I would just say Hunter is just like our main villain of the cast. I guess he's not like as maliciously evil as like Heifer was in Total Drama Island or Alejandro World Tour. But he's like evil for a purpose, you know? He wants to be evil not to cause others misery, but just to get the money in the end, which is going to be a cool crisp $1 million. $1 million Canadian dollars. Is that more than American dollars? Okay, so they're actually winning 7,1200 and 903.19 United States dollars. But I guess they're in Canada, so it just made $1 million anyways. Okay, whatever. Anyways, yes, but that's Hunter. Again, this was me designing my first male character, so I had to kind of get the ropes with that. But again, you just kind of need to follow a certain structure. So like for the male characters, you want to think of like rectangular shapes and like very like, you know, straight in their design. With like the female characters, it's more like triangular in a way. I mean, I guess it depends on like how you see drawing and like how drawing works for you. But for me, I'm very like shape based when I draw. So that like helps a lot. The most annoying part of this was designing that flannel. I find that for Total Drama characters, they don't usually get that complicated in their design. It's pretty simple, but as long as you have like one kind of like more intricately designed thing, you can get away with having all the other aspects of them being less detailed in their design. So for his design, I was thinking, you know, lumberjack in a way, basically. Someone who you look at them and you're like, oh yeah, they're in the woods all the goddamn time. That's really where he has most of his strategy, in the woods, which is kind of creepy, but like, you know, kind of mysterious. He brings someone to the woods alone and then he talks strategy with them so no one else can hear. But yeah, he's a very devious character, I would say, but willing to do it all to make it to the end. And I don't know, maybe he's someone I'm going to give a romantic love interest to. I don't know, maybe we'll find out later on. I will clarify if I think there are characters who I want to see get together, because you know what? This is my show, so my ship should take in president. Okay, but yeah, so that's Hunter, and let's move on to the next one. Okay, sorry, I forgot to explain his name. I mean, it's not that complicated. You know, he has themes of the forest, of the woods, so Hunter, it doesn't make sense. I didn't even really have to think that hard about that one. For all these names, I would just like go on Google and try to be like, what names mean this? And it's whatever I feel like is their dominant character trait or like theme, and then it would just give me whatever name. You know, I didn't really think too hard for a lot of these because, you know, to get through 16 characters, you just kind of like go. But yeah, so that's the origin of his name, and now we can move on to our next character actually.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should note.
Okay, next we have Mickey. So Mickey is from the Alberta area, which is going to be relevant soon, but I'll explain that later. So for Mickey, I got character traits like wants to deeply understand everyone, good at memorizing facts and retaining information, gossipy, and then I also got owns 10 different rodents as beloved pets, and that one really stood out to me. I was like, okay, this girl is weird, but we stand a weird girl. So yeah, she kind of has like a weird girl, you know, character. She's like the geek, you know, she's the not like other girls situation. And what's fun about her owning 10 different rodents, especially if they're rats, is that in Alberta, there are no rats because Alberta has a complete ban on rats, like period. You can't find rats anywhere in Alberta. I mean, allegedly. If you do find rats, they ran them out and they killed them. Not great. But that means that all the rats she owns are actually illegal. Isn't that such a character trait? Like, that's so intriguing. Like, oh my god, I'm so good. Anyway, so yes, Mickey, she owns rats. She is a friend of the rats. And don't we all want to be friends of the rats? And also, she's a criminal because she owns pet rats. But it's one of those good crimes. It's one of those crimes that makes it relatable. You know what I mean? Like, I would also own illegal rats in Alberta. I mean, probably not because I'm scared of rats. But, you know, I'm scared of a lot of things. Anyways, back to this. Again, so weird girl, weird core. I took traits from Jess from New Girl. That was my main inspiration for this, and like what's an outfit she would wear, what's a style she would look at, because that's like the first thing. Oh, it's like manic pixie dream girl. That was the word I was looking for earlier. She is a manic pixie dream girl. And don't we all want a manic pixie dream girl who owns rats in her lives? I know I do. Anyways, so we don't really have like a weird girl in total drama. I guess the closest thing would be Izzy, but Izzy isn't weird. She's just like crazy. Like she's an actual criminal wanted by the RCMP and was literally arrested by them in one season. And then she was taken by the military in another season. A lot of weird stuff is going on with Izzy. But yeah, she's not like that crazy, but she is eccentric. She's gonna find a unique way to win a challenge. So I would definitely say that she is on Selene's alliance. She is recruited by Selene. She's friends with Selene because, you know, Hunter sees someone like her and she's like, I don't want this person on my team. They're a wild card. And, you know, I get it. That's strategy. But honestly, we all need a little Mickey in our lives. So as you see with her design, I had a lot of references to mice. You know, her space buns, they can resemble mouse ears. One might even say they resemble La Mickey Mouse. But don't tell Disney that because I want to be sued. And then she is going to have a mouse design on her overall. This one was like very hard color wise to figure out. I originally wanted to give her like some fun pink hair, but then I was like, it clashed a little bit too much with her design. So I switched it to just normal dark brown hair, and then I gave her a little bit more pop of color on her overalls. I was worried at this point that I wasn't incorporating enough bright colors with these designs. Like, I thought I was using too many neutral colors, and as you notice, like Total Drama designs, they are pretty vibrant in their colors, and I want to at least resemble this. Like, I'll get into this later, but I don't really think these designs are perfect one-to-one replications of the Total Drama style, and I'm like, okay with that, because I do have some, not issues with the Total Drama style, but like things about the Total Drama style that I don't really want to incorporate into my designs. Yeah, so this is mostly just me fixing her colors over and over and over and over again. And then I'm pretty sure, okay, so like for a lot of these, when I show off their final design, they look pretty different than what I showed here. It's because I really just kept fussing with these characters like over and over and over again. Mostly the earlier characters, that I tried to figure out what is like the cohesive design between all 16 of these characters. But you know, this was a really fun design, you know, a fun, nice change of pace because, you know, honestly, Selene and Hunter were really giving kind of like, I mean, they weren't giving like boring, but their colors, they were just like very neutral, which is like fine, but like you just need that pop of color sometimes, you know, just to show like, hey, you know, this is so Total Drama, we're so wacky and crazy over here. Oh, this is where I'm trying to do like the hair texture because I originally didn't know how Total Drama did like curly hair, but I figured out earlier it's these like little loops. You just need to kind of like have all the characters pulled up if you want a certain trait and just find the character that has that trait in order to replicate it, basically. I mean, chances are Total Drama has done a design that has the trait that you want, but for some of them I did have to kind of just guess on what the design would look like in Total Drama, but I'll get to those later. And Mickey also has glasses. Glasses in Total Drama is weird. Like, sometimes they would have glasses and then the characters would have like little dot eyes, but then for these glasses, I was inspired by Scarlet from Pocketoo. Is it Pocketoo or Pocketown? I never remember. I don't really like that season, so I don't really care to look it up. So yeah, but there are going to be other characters with glasses or sunglasses that are going to have that more traditional dot eye characteristic. The dot eyes are really weird, but I'll get to that when we get to the character that has dot eyes, which is relatively soon. But yeah, this is me just more fussing with her colors again. I really want to make sure that I didn't just like quickly go through one and then just not like look back. Like usually what would happen is like I would draw one, I would sketch in a day, I would finish the design in another day, and then before I start the next character, I would look back at the original one I did and make any changes that I think were necessary. And this was slowly, I did this less with each character as I progressed because I got more accustomed with my style of how to draw these characters. So that was nice. I feel like now I'm like not a master, but if I were to do this again, it would probably go by a lot quicker, which I'm not because this was very strenuous. But yeah, so that's Mickey, and let's move on to our next character.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should note.
And now we have our second boy character. That's right, I'm going into a pattern, boy, girl, but maybe I'll change it up later on, I don't know. Anyways, this is Valentino. He is Colombian Canadian and is from Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. So for his random character trait generator, I got phrases like curious, thrives in variety, has a very design-focused view of everything, constantly commenting on the aesthetic of everything around them. So with all of those, I took it to mean, okay, this is a very artistic character. So I chose to give him an alternative style for his design. So again, like with Mickey, I really wanted to prioritize vibrant colors, especially in comparison to the first two characters I drew. I really wanted them to like stand out against them. So this original sketch, a lot of things are going to be changed from it. This one was probably the hardest when it came to color, especially for his sweater, which I will elaborate more on later. I gave him like a slick back mohawk hair and sunglasses on top. Just really focusing on like what would like an Instagram what would an Instagram wear? Yes, you get what I mean. Maybe. I also gave him fingerless gloves, you know, just trying to make someone who looks like an aesthetic, but you can't quite place what the aesthetic is besides, I guess, the word Instagram. I think I just made a character who was just Instagram. So Valentino is really emblematic of that rectangular shaped design philosophy I mentioned earlier when it comes to the male characters in Total Drama, especially in comparison to Hunter. Basically, with a lot of his design elements, they're very square, angular. You can basically fit them in a rectangle. So as you can see now, I am designing a skull on his t-shirt that looks very similar. If you couldn't guess it, this is based on Duncan's skull design on his t-shirt. So for some of these characters, I want to bring back some design elements from previous Total Drama characters, like little references, especially on their clothes and accessories, just to kind of tie it back to the roots of this franchise. And as you can see already, I am struggling with the color of his sweater and it's going to get much worse. So I'm currently doing a color block design on his sweater. Also the colors of the design are going to be very symbolic of something of this character. If you can guess it, comment it down below, but it shouldn't be that hard to guess. But not these colors. I'll tell you which colors are the finalized colors. So with Valentino, since he is very aesthetic oriented, I feel like he's not that much of a competitive force, but is a very social force. I feel like he would very easily have a large group of friends and have people that he can be loyal to and will be loyal to him, which would make him a very valuable ally to both Selene and Hunter's alliances. Now, which one would he go to? I would say neither. I feel like he would rather play this game without alliances because that doesn't limit him to what kind of allies he can have, which is a very fair strategy, and that can probably work out well in a format like this where there's two major alliances and he's in the middle of both of them. So as you can see, he has heterochromia, which was referenced earlier in the skull design with the rose in the right eye of the skull, and Valentino has the discoloration on his right eye. Again, he just really gives, I don't know why I keep saying Instagram, but like this just looks like Instagram personified. I don't know. So yeah, I'm just fussing with the colors more. I was really starting to get like, I really need to make more vibrant characters because in Total Drama, the characters are very vibrant. But the problem is I really struggle with making vibrant colors work. So this one was definitely a challenge, especially with the color block hoodie where I had to incorporate multiple colors in one design. So I don't have a boot order set in stone for this cast. I know pretty well who the final four are going to be. Anything before that, I have no clue. And no, the final four aren't the first four characters I designed, though that would be really easy of me to do. But yeah, I think in a show like Total Drama, it is very important to already have a boot order in mind, like before even writing, before even starting it. I mean, I don't know if that's how they did it in the original Total Drama series, but I wouldn't be surprised. Though I know LaShawn was supposed to make it farther than she did. I just know it in my heart. There was no way they would do my girl that dirty for no reason. Yeah, that's Valentino. Also, these are the finalized colors, so try to figure out what's going on with them, okay? Got pink, white, and blue. Pink, white, and blue. What do those symbolize? Comment down below what you think those symbolize. Okay, on your next character.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should note.
Next we have Sofia. So Sofia is Filipino-Canadian and she is from Toronto. So for Sofia, I got character traits like great at reading others, knowing how people are feeling and why, and how it's borderline impossible to hide a secret from them or mislead them, since they seem to almost supernaturally just know the actual truth about how someone is feeling or what they're thinking. And also refer to themselves in the third person a lot for no other reason than they like to sound ominous. So I'm probably not going to have that third one, but I do like the word ominous. And also extreme homebody that just wants to chill. So especially for that second trait, I was reminded of this character named Charlie from the TV show Poker Face. If you haven't seen it, it's about an amateur detective who can always tell when someone's lying to her. So I think that's a really interesting character trait to have in a reality competition show, because in a lot of reality competition shows, people are manipulated and people are lied to like all the time. But if you have a character who can detect when someone's lying at any given point, then that's a lot harder to deal with. So with all that and also the character trait of ominous, I decided to make this character have an e-girl style. Now you might be thinking what the difference is between e-girl, emo, goth, alternative even, and frankly I don't know. But what I do know is that that is also a common character trait in Total Drama. Of course you have Gwen, the OG goth emo, I don't know, and also Zoe kind of, but in the reboot season that's also Scary Girl. So that's the style of this character. I decided to just embody what basically you're on TikTok in 2020. You scroll up and it's probably going to be an e-girl influencer. That's what this character looks like basically. So pretty easy in a design point. Actually, it was a lot more simple compared to a lot of these other designs. Yeah, so in a game perspective, how would Sofia play? So I feel like Hunter would approach her to join his alliance, but after figuring out her special trait where she can detect if someone's lying all the time, he would immediately kibosh that because he would lie to his allies all the goddamn time. So we can't have someone who knows his tea like that. So yeah, she is not allowed in Hunter's alliance. So that means Selene can easily pick her up. And since she's super chill, then they're gonna vibe together great. You're gonna vibe so great. Vibe. You know what? Actually, maybe they'll vibe a little more than just friends. I don't know. Ooh, you gotta get those shipping in. And the Total Drama series is all about the goddamn ships these days.
See this? I don't know. I guess I'm not woke. Okay, fine. You win with your gay stuff. That's what you want, right? To win.
So I'm currently also futzing with her design. I decided to give these like stripes, which I find are very common in emo, goth, all that shebang. You know, I'm not like a fashion designer or know most fashion trends. So if I offend anyone who partakes in these styles, yeah. So anyways, so I actually think she was a very straightforward design and probably like one of my best so far. I'm really proud of how she came out, honestly. I feel like she, out of all this cast, probably resembles a Total Drama character the most. I'm not exactly sure how I did it or why it's her, but anyways, I still decided to give her some colored highlights to make her really pop out. And yeah, she's like probably one of my favorite characters I've designed so far. And I also think she'll just be a really interesting character in my season of Total Drama. But yeah, I hope you like my take on the Gwen, goth, scary girl archetype. And now it's time to move on to our next character.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should know.
So next we have Fisher, and he is Canadian, and he is from Prince Edward's Island, which is an island province in Canada. So full disclosure, I didn't use any of the character traits I generated for him because they were all kind of very separate from each other, because altogether these kind of didn't make sense for one character, and I couldn't really find a way to place it, but that's okay. That wasn't the point of the random character trait generator, it was just for inspiration. Instead, I got inspiration from the province he's from. So listen, I don't really know that much about Canadian history or like what all the Canadian provinces are like, but I just heard Prince Edward's Island and I was like, ooh, that's an interesting name and an interesting place. You got an island in Canada, not usually your first thought. So I wanted a character that basically embodied what Prince Edward Island means to me in like my head. So to me that kind of embodies like Soho styles and like maritime sailor motifs even. So I really wanted a carefree character, you know, a hippie archetype, which I'm not fully sure was ever done in Total Drama. I guess the closest was Jeff, but he's more of like a party dude than like a chill, go with the flow kind of dude. I guess that can also be Zay in the reboot season. But yeah, I just wanted someone who kind of like embodied chill, like zone out, stuff like that. And that is why he would be such a valuable ally to Hunter, who would easily scoop him up in his alliance because he's not going to push back on literally anything. He'll just do what he tells him 24/7. The perfect Lindsay to his Heather. I guess that's the character he's most like, Lindsay. You know, maybe he is kind of like that dumb blonde archetype. And also no offense to blondes, that just is a very common archetype that was definitely exploited in Total Drama. But I wouldn't really even say he's dumb. I would just say he is very carefree and, you know, one with the world. I actually did lie about no character traits inspiring me. I think some of them like can easily detach themselves from a situation and wants to be friends with every animal in the world and making flower arrangements, telling them to people. Like, he doesn't do those things, but they kind of inspire me to just create a very chill, laid-back character, which you think he would work with Selene, and he probably will, but unfortunately Hunter already scooped him up. Better luck next time, Selene, you just get the outcasts. But I always feel like the outcasts do better in the show anyways, so maybe Hunter has some more competition than he thought. Who knows? Also, a character that did inspire me for Fisher was Fred Jones from Scooby-Doo. I know, very obscure pull, but like, it just kind of inspired me, especially with the colors. You can see I'm trying to do blue and orange, though I do think I get rid of the orange later. Honestly, this character is just very like 60s, 70s coded, which I maybe is coming back in style. I don't really know. Again, I don't really know fashion trends, but for a show like this, the clothes are like most of the character designs, so it's really important to get it right. So yeah, as I said, game-wise, Fisher doesn't really do much. He's mostly just going to be a loyal ally to Hunter. But you know, maybe at some point he's going to have a Lindsay moment where he realized all the stuff Hunter has done to him and betrayed him at the final moment. And he's going to explode from his chill character trait that he had all throughout the season. And it's really going to shock people. Or maybe not, because Lindsay already did it, but oh well. I also decided to give him the dot eyes. So in Total Drama, the dot eyes are very weird because like only like I think 3 other characters have it. Chris, of course, DJ, and I think it's Rodney is the one from Puck 2 who has it. I'm not sure why it's like so rare or like why only some characters have it. I think it can be used when it comes to certain characters, but I'm not really sure what's the rule on it. I also gave him an anchor necklace. Oh my god, I also gave him an anchor necklace to fit with the sailor and maritime motifs with this character. So yeah, I hope this character embodies Prince Edward Island to you too. Also, apologies to anyone from Prince Edward Island I offended during this segment. Hey, if you're from that province, comment down below. I would love to hear it. And I would also love to hear all your complaints. And please help with engagement of this video. Okay, thanks, next characters.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should know.
Okay, so now we're doing a 2-for-1, and there's an important reason for that. That is because these next 2 characters are siblings. So siblings in Total Drama are not that common. So in the original Total Drama series, it only happened once, and that was with Amy and Sammy in Pakatow. And I feel like they were pretty underutilized. They're just kind of the good twin, evil twin trope. And it wasn't really that interesting, especially since they looked identical, and I'm pretty sure they had the same voice actress. But then in Redonkulous Race, we got a lot more sibling pairs because that show is about people participating as duos, most notable of which being Kitty and Emma. And I thought that their dynamic was actually really fun and entertaining. I liked how Emma was the more serious one and Kitty was a more fun one. You know, a common sibling trope, but it worked anyway. So for these siblings, I am also kind of doing that, but not exactly. So these two siblings are named Brooke and Brock. I know, very creative on my end. So for Brooke, I got personality traits like misanthropic, generally finds others boring or insufferable, avoids people, but also very determined, you know, always scribbling, drawing, writing something down, scrapbooking. So someone who is very introverted. While for Brock, I got traits like gets ideas way faster than they actually go through with them, good at making things seem interesting even if they're not, like they can take the most mundane situation but tell a story about it in a way that makes it sound thrilling. So to me, that dynamic sounds like introverted versus extroverted, or if you're thinking more about a reality competition show, someone who has a great strategic game and someone who has a great social game. So Brooke would be the one with the strategic game, while Brock would be the one with the social game, which makes them as a duo very powerful in this game. So I think that they would both be part of Hunter's alliance, just because of the way that shapes up, and I feel like Hunter would catch on pretty well that these two are very competitive forces in the game, but they wouldn't really be loyal allies because I feel like they're going to be too strategic to actually follow along what Hunter says all the time. So Hunter would probably target them to make it to merge, but for now, they are good allies for him. So yeah, so Brooke, as I said, is a more introverted one, but she is very introspective also, which means that she is very great at strategy. So when it comes to voting someone out, I feel like she can come up with really convoluted and complicated voting plans that can basically guarantee a certain result. Well, as with Brock, since he's more extroverted, he can get really along with people and use them for strategic purposes, a lot like Hunter in a way. Which that makes me think that actually Hunter would probably just target Brock since he does a lot of the same things that he does, so he would be the greater threat, while he would probably try to get closer with Brooke to work with her. Now, do Brooke and Brock like each other? You know, siblings at this age, they usually butt heads a lot, and I feel like since they're so different in personalities, they would butt heads a ton. It's just they know the other one are such great strategic threats, they're gonna have to target the other one when the time comes. Let me actually provide an example of how their strategic dynamic would work. So I'm going to explain the format of this game actually right after this segment. But basically, for this game, who to vote for is a lot more of a factor. Like in the original Total Drama, it was certainly a factor, but they were a little inconsistent about showing, you know, who everyone voted for or how a vote made sense. The most famous example of this is when Justin was eliminated in Total Drama Island when it should have probably been Heather. And they explained it away by saying, oh yeah, Heather just gave Owen a piece of cake to vote with her. And it's like, okay. But yeah, in this game's format, who each player votes for when it comes down to elimination is a very crucial aspect of the show. So as I explained before, Brooke is the strategic mind, while Brock is the social mind. So let's say there are two people who are being considered for elimination, and Brooke and Brock decide this person is the one they want to go home. So Brooke would first formulate the plan to say, hey, these people are most likely to vote for this person, so we should target these people when it comes to convincing them to vote out this person. And then Brock, who is the social mind, would be able to actually go to these people and talk them into the plan. So in a way, Brooke is kind of the invisible one in the strategic duo because Brock is the one who's actually talking to people, which might make her less of a casualty when it comes to who would be targeted first, which is what I said before with Hunter rather targeting Brock than Brooke. But yeah, they are a very interesting strategic duo. As you can tell, I'm like a lot more invested in the game itself than like player relationships with each other. I mean, I'll admit that player relationships are a very crucial aspect of Total Drama, and there'll definitely be those in my season, but I really also want to focus on the game itself. So I started the colors with Brooke. I decided to give her kind of these green and purples, like complementary cool colors to kind of match her cool personality. And you can see she's also the only other character who has a neutral or like kind of meh face, and the only other one that has that is of course Hunter, which I feel like is why they would get along pretty well. You know, I really like how Brooke turned out. I really love her hair, the braid, accessories. I think that really comes together well. I decided not to have as much detail for her clothing, just give her a simple like hoodie, crop top, and some shorts, and we're all good to go. So not too much in her design, because I feel like just like with her personality traits, she wouldn't really care that much about what she's wearing on a given day as long as it works, you know what I mean? But no, it was really interesting designing two characters at once. It was something, I don't think it's something I ever actually did before, at least when designing two brand new characters. But it was really important for me to design them together because they're supposed to look alike since they're siblings. So I want to make sure that both their sketches were done at the same time, so I can really make sure that they would look like they're related.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should note.
And now to design for Brock, I found that his hair was a little harder for me to get right the first time because I'm just not like super great in general at designing like shorter male hair. Is kind of something I need to like work on. I think you just find it hard because like since it's shorter, it's kind of harder to get away with like phoning it in, if that makes any sense. But yeah, since he's like an extrovert, I decided to just give him like a simple like varsity sweater, jock fit, you know? He probably plays some sort of sport. Since it's Canada, it's probably like hockey. Oh, I didn't mention where they're from in Canada. They are both also from Toronto. As you can see, I gave Brock red hair to complement Brooke's blue hair. I think I said it was purple earlier, and that is because for some reason, I really have a hard time telling apart blues and purples when they're a certain shade, but it's not colorblindness. I have a colorblind for different colors. It's confusing, whatever. But yeah, so that just matches the simple like blue for the more introverted one and red for the more extroverted one. It just like complements each other's designs. I really want to make sure that their designs complemented each other since they're, you know, siblings and they have contrasting personalities. I also decided to give Brock ripped jeans. Originally I was going to have his legs come out of them, but that looked weird, so I decided to just leave the impression that they're ripped. And I also decided to give him braids as well to match his sister. I certainly believe that's another reason why Brock's hair was harder for me to design, because in Total Drama, there's only ever been one character to have braided hair, and that was Nisha. And that was a huge help when it came to designing Brooke, but since Brock has shorter hair, I had to kind of figure it out on my own. And also, this goes into the larger point of diversity, but I'll talk about that a little later. I don't think either one's the older one. I actually think they're twins. I don't know what I'm saying. I guess I could just decide. But yeah, I feel like they're like twins. They are fraternal twins. And I also decided to give Brock some facial hair. I didn't mention this earlier, but I also gave Hunter some facial hair. In Total Drama, facial hair is like barely a thing because again, they're supposed to be like teenagers. But since these guys are college, I decided to give them facial hair. But yeah, that's Brooke and Brock. So on to our next character. Or characters.
He's lying! He's lying! He's lying! He's lying! He's lying!
And the significance here of the bell, and I should note.
Okay, yes, you do need an intermission because you just waited through what I assume was 30 minutes of me explaining my OCs, and that's even a lot for me. So let's just take some time for me to explain how the game will work in my show because it's not quite like Total Drama. So I assume you already know that Total Drama is a parody of Survivor. I mean, the games are basically one-to-one. You have tribes, aka teams, you have immunity idols, you have challenges, you have someone voted off after every night. They're basically the same thing. And there's nothing wrong with that format. I just just prefer a little change. For example, Total Drama had a spin-off called The Ridiculous Race, which based its parody on The Amazing Race. And a lot of TDI fans actually really liked that season. So why don't we spice it up again? But this time with one of my favorite reality competition shows, Big Brother. And yes, I know there is a TDI fan-made series on YouTube called Reality Resort, which basically does that, Total Drama, but it's Big Brother. I haven't personally seen it, but I don't know. If you guys like it, then tell me in the comments to go check it out. But anyways, if you don't know, Big Brother is a whole show where 16 house guests are under constant surveillance in one house. And its format is similar to shows like Survivor, but there are a few differences. First of all, there are no teams, which is why I make such a big deal about alliances in my series. Second of all, an entire team doesn't win immunity, it's just one person, and that person is called the head of household. The head of household can choose 2 or 3 or more, depending on the season, house guests to nominate for eviction. And then they play the power veto competition, which gives the power to house guests to either save themselves from the block or save someone else from the block if they're not already on the block, which causes the head of the household to nominate someone else in their stead. And then, again, depending on the season, they might play something called the BB Blockbuster, which again allows for someone else to come off the block. But in that case, someone else doesn't go up, instead it's just the remaining 2, because that would be if there's 3 nominees. Sorry to make it confusing. At the end of the night, all the house guests votes on which one of them they want to evict. And then at a certain point, we enter a jury phase where all the evicted house guests become jury members, which will vote for one of the 2 finalists to win the entire game. Anyways, my season will carry a lot of these aspects. So first of all, let me call my season an actual name besides my TDI, Reboot season, whatever. And also, I really don't want to be sued by Fresh TV. So we are calling this show Camp Calamity. I did not check if another YouTube fan-made series already has that name. Actually, I'm going to check right now. Okay, I think I'm in the clear. But if you see this video, I'm trying to make another series called Camp Calamity. I am going to sue you to the ground. You understand me? Okay, don't mess with me. So in Camp Calamity, the head of household, or HOH, is called the Camp Master. And all contestants compete in the Camp Master Challenge. Again, it's the same thing basically as the head of household challenge. One contestant will have the power to nominate 3 other contestants for elimination. We're not going to do a power veto because we can't do like 3 competitions for one episode, because then you're not going to be able to have any time for like character development and stuff like that. So instead, we're just going to skip over to the vote. But before the vote, they will have the power to win in the Campfire Challenge. So in the Campfire Challenge, the 3 nominated contestants get to compete for safety, and then the 2 remaining ones get put to the vote. And then out of the 2 remaining ones, the one who's eliminated is based on a vote for all the other contestants except the one who won Camp Master, unless there's a tie, which is how Big Brother works basically. Again, that's a pretty good balance, because a lot of the time Total Drama kind of struggles with balancing between challenges and character development. It's true that character development can happen during the challenge, but it really depends on what kind of challenge you're doing. I feel like not having teams is going to really help with that aspect, because you're going to have the opportunity for all the characters to interact with each other without the boundary of them having teams. Basically, yeah, that's how this hypothetical show, Camp Calamity, would work. So I'm not exactly sure why I designed these next 2 characters at the same time. They're not like related to each other or anything, but I guess the one thing they do share is that they have different body types compared to the rest of the cast. So I didn't really mention this, but I wanted this cast to be diverse. So in the original Total Drama seasons, the cast was absolutely not diverse, even like a little bit. Their cast was mostly white and didn't really have much variety in their body shapes. And you know, as seasons progressed, their cast slowly got more and more diverse, and the Reboot cast is actually very diverse. But yeah, I want to make sure that my cast was diverse, because I think that's, you know, important when it comes to shows like this. And also it just makes for more interesting characters, you know, not have all of them look the same. So we have Meadow and Everett. So for Meadow, I got character traits like loves to read, generally aloof, speaks so quiet they're practically whispering all the time, growing a ton of beautiful flowers. So for her, I really thought of like, okay, she's like the shy girl, peaceful, quiet, you know, that kind of character. And so I decided to make her have a fit that is inspired by cottagecore. So she's kind of wearing this like long sundress, and she has a lavender flower in her hair and a braid, you know, just that kind of aesthetic for her. And I've also decided to give her a plus size body type. I'm pretty sure that's the correct word, hopefully. And for her design, so out of all the characters, I took Emma's body type as like the inspiration for hers. I will be honest and say that I haven't always been the best when it comes to drawing characters of different body types, and that's something I really want to work on. So Meadow for me was a very important character to draw. So now I'm just designing her sundress. I wanted to have a lot of pastel colors. I just like colors that complement her design. Basically, I was thinking of someone who would live in like a fairy tale cottage. And I also gave her some big brown boots. Yeah, I really want to make sure to get her body type right and just give her, complementary colors. So I was doing a lot of vibrant colors. Now I'm kind of switching back to more neutral and pastel colors. So in the game, she would definitely be on Selene's alliance because I'm pretty sure Hunter wouldn't really want her in his alliance anyways. And she just seems like a perfect fit for her. I feel like her and Selene and Sofia would get along really well. I feel like she would actually get along really well with Mickey also. And, as I said, it's like Selene's alliance does not have people you would think would be the best competitors because Hunter has those people. But in a show like this, it's not always about who you think is going to be the best competitor because these challenges could be anything. You don't know, it could be a flower identification challenge. I mean, probably not, but you don't know. I guess Meadow in this case would be most like Dawn from Revenge of the Island or DJ from Total Drama Island, where both of them are very kind, gentle characters who get along with animals. Well, not so much DJ in World Tour, but that's another story. Anyways, yes, but I guess that is a pre-existing archetype, friend of the animals. And I guess in my cast, Mickey also was a friend of the animals, or at least of the rats. So I actually think Meadow and Mickey's connection would be probably the closest of anyone else in this cast. And that's another reason why she would be part of Selene's alliance. But yeah, I also would say her design is partially inspired by Dawn's design, just kind of that gentle nature, go with the flow archetype. And also I think she might be cool with Fisher, but again, he's on Hunter's alliance, so maybe they won't have that many chances to interact. But again, there's no team, so there's nothing stopping them. But anyways, that's Meadow. Oh, I also forgot to mention where she's from. She is from Vancouver, Canada. And you know what? I also make Everett from Vancouver, Canada. So they share something else and it makes more sense why I drew them together, even though that's totally not the reason, but whatever. Okay, on to Everett.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should note.
So as I mentioned previously, something that Everett and Meadow share is that they really helped me push into exploring different body types with this cast. So Everett specifically has a very athletic, bulky build, which is very different from the other male characters. And so because of that, you can already kind of guess his archetype and who he might be aligned with, and that of course is Hunter. That's probably going to be like the first person Hunter chooses. And also like Fisher, he's going to be another one of Hunter's loyal allies. In fact, I feel like he would be Hunter's most loyal ally because he's a gym bro, and that's a very, very, very common archetype in reality competition shows. So for Everett, I got character traits like has a goofy sounding laugh, seems otherworldly. I guess I kind of took that as like his huge build. Good at making things seem interesting even if they're not. Like they could take the most mundane situation but tell a story about it in a way that makes it sound thrilling. Oh, I think that's already a character trait for someone else. But whatever. So for Everett, he is basically just like a dude bro. He's basically just like Jeff in Island, but probably a little more dumb, or not dumb, but more easily manipulated. Because this archetype in reality competition shows, they stay very loyal to the quote-unquote bros. And Hunter, well, he will try to make himself seem like a bro to him, even though he is most definitely not. But with his build, you can obviously guess that he would be a very, very competitive threat when it comes to physical challenges. And also, now that you watch the intermission, or at least I hope you watch the intermission, if you haven't, then you should go watch it because it has a lot of important info when it comes to the format of this game. Because it's not total drama, it's something else. So basically, Everett easily win a Camp Master challenge and win power to nominate people, or a Campfire challenge and save himself from the block. So he would be a very, very powerful ally for Hunter, who would probably actually be his top ally because he can take him far in the game. But he can easily win against him in a jury because you can just say that he manipulated him throughout the entire thing. So I mentioned previously that Hunter is a combination of Alejandro and Scott when it comes to him being our villain archetype for this cast. But he also shares something with Heather, and that is his alliance structure. So Fisher and Everett are his two most loyal allies, like how Lindsay and Beth were Heather's most loyal allies in Island. And that was because those were the two contestants Heather was most easily able to manipulate. And it's a very similar story with Fisher and Everett. But as I said with Fisher's segment, he is a very sociable person, and therefore he would be a greater jury threat, while Everett, because he would win so many competitions and make so many powerful decisions like who to nominate, he would be very unpopular compared to Fisher. So what's likely to happen is that Hunter will want to take out Fisher and keep Everett in the end. So that's what differentiates Hunter's two loyal allies. So more about Everett's design. For his body, much like with Meadow, I took inspiration from another character in the reboot cast, more specifically Caleb. You can see them side by side, they're almost a perfect match. Except, like with most of my characters, I made his proportions somewhat more realistic. Like Caleb, definitely skipped leg day, bro. But yeah, I also don't have a ton of experience drawing very, I guess, bulky characters. So he was also a very important character to draw when it comes to me getting that experience with drawing different body types. So for Everett, I actually had a very specific character as inspiration, and that is Ken from the 2023 Barbie movie, and specifically the neon outfit he's in when he first goes to the human world. So he has like neon pinks, neon greens, neon blues. Basically he's looking like an 80s or 90s workout VHS instructor. So yeah, that's Everett, and on to our next character.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should note.
Okay, next up we have Cherry. So for Cherry, I got traits like feels happiest when they're with other people, great at making people feel comfortable and safe around them, loves words and language and is always peppering obscure vocabulary into sentences, trying to revive ancient, outdated phrases, etc. So all those traits give me someone who's very outgoing, energetic, just kind of a fun vibe. And sometimes you just need a fun vibe on a cast. So for Cherry, I decided to make the redhead of the cast, which I don't think that's actually a type of character. I mean, you had Izzy in Island, you had Zoe in Revenge of the Island, you had Scarlet in Pakatu, and Reboot Season didn't have any redheads. So I guess it is kind of an archetype, I don't know. But to me, Cherry just gives just a fun vibe, like I said before. And I want to give her this kind of like cool girl fit. I don't really sure what that means. Just like, a nice leather jacket, some jeans, boots with a fur, got the whole club looking at her. That kind of vibe. She's just like a cool presence. I feel like she would be a part of... I don't know which alliance she would be a part of, honestly, because I feel like Hunter would want her because he would see the value in having someone outgoing, energetic like that and like good with people. But I feel like she would vibe more with Selene's alliance. Well, hey, since I already brought up Big Brother, why don't I bring up another Big Brother term, and that is the floater. So, if you don't know, floater, okay, well, it's a little complicated. But in a system like this, where there's two major alliances, a floater would be someone who goes in between each alliance. Basically someone who isn't loyal to either and is cool with both of them. So when one alliance goes into power, they're safe. And when the other alliance goes into power, they're also safe. Because they're not really loyal to any alliance, but they have the other alliance members think they are loyal to them. But I don't think Cherry would do this intentionally. I just think she wants to vibe with everyone. But I don't really see the long-term success of a strategy like that because eventually she is going to have to pick a side. Or let's say one alliance wins the war, then she's going to be on the bottom of that alliance and then it's going to turn out really bad for her. So I feel like it's going to be a strategy that she has to navigate carefully if she wants to win this show. Actually, now that I'm saying it out loud, her strategy sounds a lot like Valentino's strategy, where neither are part of either major alliance. and instead making their own path with their own allies, while also trying to keep it cool with both sides. And now that makes me think that maybe her and Valentino would have a game relationship, where the two of them would try to work together to maintain their, I guess, secret on how they're really loyal to neither side. Or, I guess for Cherry, it's more apt to say loyal to everyone. Or at least the people that she aligns with, which can include people from both sides. So now I'm just fine-tuning her outfit. I decided to give her a dark red leather jacket and some blue jeans to have a nice color contrast. And I also decided to give her a black and white striped shirt. I think it looks a little retro, which, speaking of retro, I also like the trait of her trying to revive ancient outdated phrases. I kind of want her to have like some 1920s slang to her speech, or like 30s, 40s, 50s, like really retro phrases that she just randomly sprinkles in. I think that'd just be like really funny to have in a show like this. And as you can also see, I decided to use another one of the older Total Drama characters' design elements for her. So for her earrings, I used Lashana's kumquats. Yeah, no, they're not cherries, they are kumquats. I'm not sure why, but oh well. But you know, they look like cherries, so it works for her character. Cherry's actually an instance where I just had the name pop into my head. Like, I didn't have to Google search for it. I was just like, I feel like her name would be Cherry. And then so it's Cherry. But yeah, I feel like she makes a good difference in strategy, because I really want all the players to be playing a different game from each other. You know, not one player is playing the same game, and I feel like that makes things way more interesting for a show like this. But yeah, that's Cherry. She's just kind of a vibe, and you know what? We're here for it. So let's move on to our next character. Now, you may be thinking that I forgot again to mention where this character is from, but I actually did. But there's also another reason, and that's because Cherry is not from Canada. She's actually American. So Cherry is actually from New York City. That's why she's such a cool vibe. She's actually not our only character who isn't from Canada, but I'll get to those ones later. Okay, now we can move on to our next character.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should note.
So our next character, we have Zahir. He is Indian Canadian and is specifically from Toronto. Now, this one is actually very deliberate. So I had two characters in mind when I was making Zahir. Okay, they're a little embarrassing. But the first one was Roderick from the Diary of Wimpy Kid movies, and that's because while I was creating him, the Regina George and Roderick ship edits were going off on TikTok, and well, I couldn't help myself, could I? But the next character I was inspired by was somehow even more embarrassing, and that is Matthew Patel from Scott Pilgrim, which if you don't know, well, I'm not going to tell you about Scott Pilgrim, that's a pilgrimage you need to make on your own. But it is a webcomic that takes place in Toronto, Canada. So yeah, basically I just kind of took both these characters and made it into my own. So Zahir is a rocker, he plays the guitar, much like Trent, but unlike Trent, he isn't lame. Because let's be honest, Trent is lame. I don't expect anyone in my comment section being a Trent defender, and if you are. So for Zahir, I got traits like always wants to be doing something, can never sit still, gets bored incredibly easily, leave him alone with no distractions for even 5 minutes and they start going wild, also distractible, and arson. And so I kind of took all those traits and made it into just kind of like this punk rocker type of character. So, being a punk rocker, he has basically that style, you know. He has chains, jeans, this kind of like bomber jacket. And of course, he also has a guitar, though I think it's specifically a bass. I don't know. I'm asking, why wouldn't I know? I don't know. And he would be the first Total Drama character to have a tattoo, even though I guess I already said this isn't Total Drama, it's Camp Calamity, but whatever. And that too, which is basically like the hand gesture people use during rock concerts. I actually did really struggle with a tattoo because I don't really design many characters with tattoos, but I think it kind of worked. It was like kind of cartoony in a way I wanted. But yeah, so how would Zahir work in the game? So he would definitely be, well, Okay, I was gonna say he would definitely be on Hunter's alliance, but I feel like he wouldn't be too sure of Hunter. I mean, I feel like he would kinda want to vibe with him, but Hunter would come off too much like a game bot. And that would kind of put Zahir off because he's not really super engaged in the game. He just kind of wants to chill, you know? Like, the money would be great, but, you know, he just kind of wants to chill. Maybe use it as an opportunity to promote his music. Oh, I also gave Zahir kind of like these eye circles, which I got from both Roderick and Matthew Patel. Yeah, I feel like he just wants to kind of chill out with his guitar. I feel like he would be really good friends with Cherry, actually, because they just kind of both are like people who just want to vibe, you know? I feel like he's going to be the one person that Hunter actually opens up to in a way that isn't game-wise, because he's one of the only normal people around here. Like, you know how I said that Hunter likes to go in the woods to talk strategy? Well, Zahir likes to go to the woods to play his music. You know, kind of that woodland vibe. I don't know, I'm saying vibe way too much. I'm sorry, but whatever. You know what I mean? So I can already imagine, picture a scene with me that Hunter goes to talk strategy with someone in the woods. He thinks he's alone, but it turns out Zahir was actually there playing music, and he discovers him. And at first, Hunter's freaking out that Zahir heard what he was saying to this one person. But Zahir makes it evident quite quickly that he does not care. And so that allows him to have just like kind of a chill talk with Hunter. You know, maybe there's something more there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Do you even know what I'm saying at this point? What are we in? We're like an hour in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, fine. You win with your gay stuff. That's what you want, right? To win.
Anyways, that's Zahir. And yeah. Okay. On to our next character.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should note.
Okay, next we have Gazelle. Or Giselle. No, I think it's actually Giselle. I'm sorry. Anyways, so for Giselle, I got traits like innovative, running / jogging, and always ends up getting into fights with people even when they don't mean to. I had this idea to create a character who has a prosthetic. So in Total Drama, there's only ever been one character to have a prosthetic, and that is Z. But the thing with Z is that if you look at his design, you're not actually going to see it because it's his leg, but it's covered up with his like pants. And that's because in the season itself, it was kind of like this reveal thing. And you know, I don't really have a problem with that, of course, but I just kind of want a character where their prosthetic was like more of like a part of their design. So I wanted to design one to have an arm prosthetic. And I also wanted to make sure that it wasn't just like a robotic arm, but actually something that like looks like an actual prosthetic. I mean, I guess there are now robotic prosthetics, but you know, just one that like isn't exactly robotic, but would still like function like in a way that would like function like an arm. So I just, full disclosure, I had this idea before generating the random character traits. Like I was already like considering it. One of the traits though that I generated is often sick and has a lot of health problems. You can just scratch that trait right off because that's not what I was like going for. That was just a coincidence with the random character trait generator. So Giselle, she isn't like sick or like anything. She just has an arm prosthetic. And it was like something she has since birth. But I did take a liking to running and jogging as like an activity for her. So she's kind of like our sporty girl this season. So she's very strong physically, and also can be a very strong competitive player. Someone who can rival Everett in physical challenges, which is why I feel like she would be a great match for Selene's alliance. I feel like Hunter would definitely be interested in having her join his alliance, but I feel like she wouldn't really want to work with Hunter. I actually feel like she would have this intense rivalry with Hunter because they're just both very competitive people. And I feel like she would naturally just figure that out while she's playing in challenges with him that, oh, this is a guy to look out for. So I can't join him in an alliance. I need to take him out at some point. So she wouldn't really join Celine's alliance because she particularly likes Selene or her friends, but more just a way to get Hunter. So Gazelle is also from Vancouver, like Meadow. I really wanted to give her this kind of like fun surfer girl design, even though she's not a surfer girl, she's a jogger. So of course it took a lot of inspiration from Bridget, who was the surfer girl in Island, but I really want to make sure she didn't look like an exact copy of Bridget or of those characters from that other Fresh TV surfer show. Soaked, I think is its name. Oh, Stoked. It's Stoked, not Soaked. But yeah, Stoked was literally just a show with a bunch of surfers, and for their girl characters, it literally looks like they took Bridget and split her into 3. I actually never watched Stoked, but somehow in my vague recollections, maybe it just premiered in a commercial on Cartoon Network at some point while I was watching Total Drama. But anyways, point being, I just didn't want her to look like a copy of Bridget, so I tried to like differentiate her in ways. I also gave her some dyed highlights like I did with Sofia. And yeah, altogether, I think she came out looking really great. I'm really proud of the way I designed her prosthetic because that was something that was never designed in Total Drama before. So I just had to kind of go off what I learned when it came to designing in the Total Drama style. But yeah, that's Gazelle. And on to our next character.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should note.
Okay, next we have Jian. So Jian is Chinese-Canadian, and they are from Toronto also. I'm not actually sure if they ever specified where the original Total Drama characters were actually from. Like, they were from Canada, but I don't think they actually specified it, at least not with all of them. But for most of the characters in the cast, they're from Toronto because it's the biggest city in Canada. You know, as we all know, that's where Drake's from. And don't we all love Drizzy Drake?
I love you, Drake.
Anyways, Jian, for them, I generated traits like good at memorizing facts and retaining information, daring, gets a thrill out of taking risks, and boldly engaging in new challenges, isn't actually very weak but just pretends to be frail all the time so nobody ever expects anything of them. Lol. Okay, I don't like how lol made its way into my character trait generator. Like, they just want to see how much they can get away with, always talking to people opening jars for them or fetching things for them, pretends to be faint so they can get out of social events, etc. So basically taking all those traits at once, I'm like, okay, nerd, nerd, nerd. So when I was drawing them, I just thought to myself, oh, I'm just drawing Scott the Woz as a Total Drama character. But listen, literally if you just draw anyone with glasses and short hair and to look like a nerd, it's gonna look like Scott the Woz, and there's nothing much you can do about that. You're just gonna have to roll with it. So yeah, Jian is our nerd character, you know, our Harold, our Cody, Noah to an extent. A lot of the island characters, a lot of them were just the nerd archetype. Sam in Revenge of the Island. You know, a nerd is always needed because who's gonna do well during the mental challenges? So Jian is going to be, I actually don't know what alliance they would be a part of. Yeah, because I feel like Hunter, maybe he wouldn't have them be part of an alliance because they would act frail, like one of the traits said. So even though they might be good at mental challenges, Hunter would be like, wow, they're weak, so maybe I wouldn't want them part of my alliance. So I guess they would go to Selene's alliance, which would give her alliance a huge leg up when it comes to mental challenges. So yeah, I think that would be it. Because Jian also doesn't want to do any strength-related challenges. They want to be carried to the end. One may say a floater strategy, but actually no, because that's not what a floater means. I guess that's more of a coaster. But I feel like they would be a little bit more effective in a strategy than a coaster would. I'm sorry, you really don't need to know all these big rubber terms. I'll shut up now. I'm just fanboying out. Fanboying. Yeah, Okay. Can we just move on to our next character, please? Oh, wait. I also forgot to mention that I took another aspect of Total Drama for their design. It's the marshmallow, and I decided to add bonus life text. Basically just like one of those gamer shirts you see at, I don't know, Hot Topic, Spencer's. I never go inside those doors, so I wouldn't know. GameStop? Do those even exist anymore? I don't know. Okay, let's go on to the rest of the character actually, please. Thank you.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should know.
So next we have Kimberly. So Kimberly is Haitian, not Canadian. She's from Haiti, but she decided to, I guess, join the show. I guess I never clarified how these contestants actually got on the show. I guess they auditioned, which means I guess they got applicants from technically all over the world, but it's really just going to be America for Cherry, Haiti for Kimberly, and our last character is also not going to be from Canada. But yeah, so for Kimberly, I got traits like extremely expressive, never has any trouble giving an opinion or expressing their thoughts, easily explains how they feel about something and why, wants to be friends with every animal in the world, even has ink stains and doodles and notes to themselves all over their hands and arms usually. So I'm getting this girl who is very artsy, in tune with nature, expressive, you know, just kind of a fun personality. So I feel like Kimberly would just be playing a pretty chill social game, which means she'll probably be part of Selene's alliance. I actually haven't kept track of if their alliances are even or not, but it'll probably work out that way in the show anyways. So for her design, I want to really just like a beach fun outfit. So floral patterns, this light yellow skirt, some boots, you know, not like beach exactly, but I guess more just kind of like a nature design almost, like kind of what Meadow had going on. Because I feel like she borrows a lot of traits from Meadow and Valentino. I also feel like she would get along really well with Valentino. You know, get along really well. You know, don't you see what I'm saying? Do you already get what I'm trying to put down? You know, maybe her and Valentino would be kind of vibe. So I gave her this cute flower patterned top and also this fun yellow skirt. And I just think it just like, I really love the outfit I gave her. It's like one of my favorites. She's actually one of my favorite designs. But yeah, she just plays a very chill game, very chill social game. So I feel like she would be a social threat. I feel like she would almost never get nominated by like literally anyone because she's just such a cool vibe. But I feel like Hunter would recognize that she is a threat in this game and he may want to work with her or at some point target her. And that's gonna suck because we love Kimberly, at least I do. She's just such a vibe. I love her for that. I also feel like she's that friend with the animals archetype in Total Drama. So yeah, I feel like she would be one with nature. And on that, I feel like Kimberly would be really great friends with Meadow at that point because they share the same archetype. Though I would argue that Kimberly is more extroverted while Meadow is more introverted. But yeah, I think they would make a good duo, and with Valentino, they would all three make a very powerful trio in Selene's alliance. I guess this trio would rival Hunter, Fisher, and Everett's trio. I mean, they would be very different trios because I wouldn't really say that there's a leader. But what could happen is if both alliances pick each other off to the point where there's not really enough members for it to be an alliance, suddenly Valentino and his two allies can make a very powerful voting bloc. That's another term in Break Brother where basically allies who think the same create a voting bloc at a certain point in the game, which basically means that they decide who gets eliminated each week. Again, I feel like she would really hit it off with Valentino, and I feel like they would be a really cute couple. Oh my god. You know, her and Valentino, they would be a pretty strong social duo. A pretty strong showmance, if you will, if you know Big Brother terminology. It would suck if they were double elimination. I'd be really upset with that. Talking like I wouldn't have control over that. Anyways, let's move on to our next character. Oh, not our next character. Let's move on to our final character. Freaking finally. Oh my god. Okay, let's get this over with.
And the significance here of the bell, and I should know.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Tsh, da, 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 da. Di, da, di, di, da, di, di, da, 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 da. Di, da, di, li, da, di, li, di, da. Di, da, di, li, di, da, di, li, 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 da, di, di, da, di, di, da, di, di, da.
But first, a word from our sponsors. Well, sponsor, it's me, I'm the sponsor. Okay, listen, if you made it this far in the video, you obviously must either like my art or my writing, or even both. I mean, if not, then what are you, like a masochist? But whatever. So, may I recommend to you my webcomic? You can go now to globalcomics.com and read my webcomic, Cryptic Coven. Now, only part 1 of chapter 1 is released because, well, this project took a lot of my time. But now that I'm done with it, I'm steadily working on part 2, and that one, I'm expecting it to be done maybe around January, February of next year, so really soon. But for now, you can still check out part 1 totally for free. Link in the description, and also it's on my channel page on YouTube. Okay, now we can finally get to the last character of my season of Total Drama. Okay, it's time. It's finally time. It's our last character. Who will it be? Well, as I said, I really want to showcase a diverse cast, so I decided to have a male character who has a plus-size body type like Meadow, but, you know, different because it's not all the same. So here we have Colin. So for Colin, I got... Honestly, it's not the greatest character traits, but I did get ones like sunset photography and always purchase in a high place whenever possible. Like they never sit normally somewhere, they're always crouching on top of chairs or climbing trees or hanging on top of roofs, which to me that all just goes into someone who's passionate for photography. So yeah, I just want to create this guy who's like really into taking photos of nature, again another nature lover. And Colin is actually not from Canada, he is from Ireland. I'm not really sure why I decided to make him Irish. I think it was the hat I gave him. I don't know, for some reason it reminded me of Ireland. I'm like, hey, let's make this character Irish. Which means, you know, when it comes to where these contestants are from, this show is not very diverse because most of them are from Canada and only 3 are from different countries. But, you know, I mean, as I said, Canada needs more rap in media anyways. So yeah, I just wanted to create this, like, cool guy. He would definitely be part of Selene's alliance, like, for sure. I feel like he would be one of the people Selene gets along the most with because he's, like, super chill. I feel like he doesn't really talk much. He just mostly takes photos. And, you know, maybe some people will be put off by that, but I feel like Selene would really vibe with it. But yeah, I also want to make his colors like that of a sunset. So oranges and pinks and lighter colors. You know, he was like a very fun design to draw. I really like his aesthetic, like what he's got going on. You know, he's a real Instagram character. I don't know why so many characters are based off social media apps. I guess this is just the way I'm being wired lately. But yeah, that's Colin. It's our final character. I hope you're not like disappointed that Colin's our final character. I mean, I like Colin. Don't you like Colin? I didn't really save the best character for last because there isn't really a best character in my eyes. I really love all these characters just like as a unit. I just think they all look really great together and they all works really well as like one cohesive cast. Like not one character looks out of place in my eyes, which I would consider a success for what I was trying to go for. But yeah, that's my Total Drama cast or Camp Calamity, whatever. I hope you enjoy, and now we're gonna go to the outro. Yay, bye! So what did we learn here today? What I learned is to not design 16 Total Drama OCs all at once, or you will have Total Drama related nightmares.
Alright campers, today's challenge is to find a reason to keep going.
Can I chances are I probably won't be able to do anything with this series or these characters. Here's my idea. I'm going to give them away for free. That's right. If you want any of these characters or ideas, then just comment below on the YouTube video, or you can DM me on Instagram at panda.ram_. If you want to be a little more secretive, hey, who am I to judge? And we can talk further about using my characters and stuff like that. Anyways, thank you for watching the latest installment of Aries season. I guess like and subscribe and leave a comment. Which one is your favorite character? I personally can't choose because I see myself as a mother to all witches. Who would you root for if the series ever got made? Well, I'm off to work on my next video. I hope it gets out in the near future for the whole world to see. Yeah.
Okay, love you guys. Don't forget to smile.
Excuse me, what the actual fuck are you doing in my house?